Have you ever been in a fight and wondered, what are we even fighting about? Hi everyone, my name is Maddie Beiswinger, and I've decided to talk about the importance of using I language to improve communication in all types of interpersonal relationships. One of the key components to having a stable interpersonal relationship is strong communication. I language allows us to see the insights and perspectives of others so we can understand how they're feeling and productively solve conflict. To be able to use I language, you need to understand the meaning of it, the consequences that arise from the lack of the use of I language, and how to implement it properly into your relationships to improve conflict and communication overall. I language is a skill used in communication to explain how another's behavior made you feel so they can understand your interpretation. To use I language, you need to be willing to express to the other person how a certain behavior or action of theirs made you feel. This doesn't mean that it's the truth or that you're the right or wrong person in the situation, but it instead is a way of coming to a conclusion and understanding instead of creating blame. The textbook states using I language is not a way to avoid conflict or emotions, and you can even use I language during a heated argument. All relationships have conflict because people are innately disagree on things, but elaborating how that made you feel and interpreting through I language can allow a civil discussion that leads to a solution. To use I language, you need to be able to say what behavior happened, how you interpreted it, how that interpretation made you feel, and what feelings resulted in that. You also need to be able to request that that doesn't happen in the future to avoid conflict again. Taking time to express how an action affected you can help another understand where your feelings are coming from and how to avoid making you feel that way again. In the heat of the moment, many people find themselves trying to place blame because it is easier than expressing their feelings, and most of the time they'll express their feelings with no clear explanation in the heat of the moment. But how can there be a solution to any problem without understanding the issue in the first place? My roommate and I have lived together for a year and a half now, but in the beginning, we had never lived with anybody else except for our families. When living with someone, there are a lot of household items that you share, such as dish soap, paper towels, laundry pods, etc. And we had never really discussed how we were going to be splitting those. After the first few months, I realized I had been the one buying all of these products, and she had never offered to pay or go get them beforehand. I decided not to say anything and just leave it, and maybe things would change on their own. A couple weeks later, I had dirty dishes and there was no dish soap left, so I decided to leave them in the sink, maybe thinking it would clue her in on that we needed dish soap and she would go get it. Instead, the next morning, she made a somewhat snarky comment about my dirty dishes in the sink, and it really upset me to the point where I reacted about it. I told her that I felt like she contributed nothing and that she never offered to do anything for things that we both need. And she got mad that I had never told her that I felt that way before, and she had honestly forgotten. We ended up going back and forth saying you did this and you did that until we finally just stopped fighting because it was not even worth it at that point. I apologized because I had said some rude things in the heat of the moment, and I should have told her beforehand what was upsetting me. And she also apologized because she said she honestly had never thought anything of it and felt really bad that I kept buying those things and offered to pay me in the end. After that, we ended up discussing how things would work out in the future, and we've never had a fight about it since, because that huge fight made us realize how stupid it was and how pointless it was to get that mad at each other. We are now very honest with each other about issues that are bothering us before we can get into a fight about it and communicate better in the first place. Being able to express how I feel without creating more conflict has allowed me to create much stronger relationships because of the ability to communicate with others. As I've matured and grown, I've used I language in many of my relationships without even knowing I was using I language because I just had better ways of handling conflict. My mom called me the other day and told me she was moving some things around in my room because she wanted to make space for some of her things since I only lived there a few months out of the year. I would have gotten mad at her beforehand, but I decided in this case I was going to be more mature and tell her how that made me feel. I told her it frustrated me that she was moving my things around without asking me and had already done it when she made the phone call. I told her that it made me upset because I felt like she was invading my privacy in some way, and it made me think, and I interpreted that she would have done it anyway if I had said no beforehand. I explained that it resulted in me being worried about my things getting lost or thrown away, and I didn't want to have to be worried about that when I'm living hundreds of miles away. I told her that I would request that she ask me before she does those things in the future, and I most likely will say yes, but I just would like the respect of knowing that she would acknowledge my feelings and care about them, because in that moment it felt like she didn't care and she would have done it anyway. She ended up feeling really bad about this and apologized and told me she would definitely ask in the future, and she didn't know how much it actually affected my feelings and how badly hurt my feelings that I felt disrespected. Being honest about how you interpret someone's behavior is the only way to truly come to a conclusion in a situation and come to a productive solution without fighting each other. The usage of I language gives us the ability to see someone else's perspective in a situation and communicate ours as well. Seeing the conflicts that can arise from poor communication and the positive results of communicating using I language should encourage everyone to handle conflict more effectively using these skills. I language allows us to have conflict and still improve our relationships in the process. So why choose to fight instead of grow our relationships? Thank you for listening.